Space is an interesting place while you're alive. It only gets more interesting in the afterlife. We're taking a quick peek at Gravity Ghost.
Let's see here. Ooh. Oh my.
This self-proclaimed 2D platformer with a twist comes from developer Ivy Games, and while it isn't your traditional 2D platform game, it's not anything I haven't seen before. You can probably guess what the main mechanic is in Gravity Ghost, since it's pretty much in the game's title. That would be gravity. Utilizing gravity as you float through space to get where you want to go isn't a new idea. Games like Alien with a Magnet as well as Orbital Gear use the same concept, only to name a few, but I feel like Gravity Ghost uses this mechanic much better than the previously mentioned titles. Two of the biggest things that I have issues with when it comes to orbital or gravity mechanics in games is having control over your character as well as being able to keep track of what's going on as the angles change and you hop from orbit to orbit and planet to planet. These things don't really seem to be much of a problem for Gravity Ghost. The game uses a fixed camera and shows most if not all of the level at all times, so you easily know where your character is and where your objectives are. Controls are also very responsive, and they only get better as the game progresses and you unlock new abilities to have more direct control over your character. Gravity Ghost doesn't stop just there. Manipulating your movement through orbits and gravitational pull is only where the mechanics really start. There are over 100 individual levels to complete, and while that may seem like a lot, many of Gravity Ghost's levels are fairly short, and I've yet to find them all that repetitive. Areas in Gravity Ghost are broken up into constellations to fit the space theme. Each constellation has new powers to find that are either needed to complete some levels or just to make the game a little bit easier. You can find stuff like the ability to glide or quickly fall to help you manipulate orbits, but you can also gain powers to change what planets are made of. Different kinds of planets do different things, such as ice planets being slippery or water planets letting you go through them instead of walk around them. Depending upon what terraforming powers you have, you can change ice planets to water planets, or water planets to dry ground. What you do want to be careful about when it comes to terraforming is your hair. Now that might sound a little bit strange, but terraforming planets costs energy, which is represented by the length of your hair. You can easily refill your hair by collecting flowers. Which doesn't necessarily go together, but we'll go with it. It's a game about space, we'll go with it. Hair length also factors into something else. Each constellation consists of a new batch of levels, and each level consists of a star to collect. Collecting stars lets you unlock new constellations, but there's more to find besides just stars. Each constellation also has a couple of animal spirits you need to find in order to unlock story sections to help you figure out just what's going on. So if you're doing a lot of terraforming, your hair's not going to be all that long and you can't carry that many spirits with you all at once, and vice versa. The main thing with collecting spirits is that unlike other games, Gravity Ghost doesn't really tell you much of anything up front. It just kinda drops you into space and gives you some mechanics to play with. You, as the player, have to find the story for yourself in order to figure out what's going on. That is if you want to. Reuniting a spirit with its body will allow that spirit to go into the afterlife and also unlock some kind of memory from the main character's past to help you figure out just who she is and what her story is. Catching spirits in order to do this can sometimes be a hassle, and it doesn't seem like you have to unlock these memories if you don't want to. There are a few things that are eventually revealed by guardians in the constellations if you collect all of the stars in every level in that constellation, but that's also something you don't really have to do. As I said earlier, collecting stars will unlock constellations, but I was easily able to gather enough stars to open up new constellations without having to complete all of the previously unlocked levels. This really gives the players options on what they want to do depending upon what they care about in the game. Don't care about the story but like the gameplay? Then you can just ignore the story. Want a story to explain while you're a girl who might be a ghost flying through space messing around with other ghosts? Then there's a story to uncover that may explain all of that. This kind of storytelling allows players to find things organically and at their own pace, instead of being forced to have to go through lengthy cutscenes or narration before even getting the chance to play the game. Gravity Ghost also has some great artwork and sound design to go along with its mechanics and story. The only thing that I really have a problem with this game is its animation and some of its voice acting. While the artwork for Gravity Ghost is pretty great, the movements in the animation are very unnatural, and any kind of lip sync is just plain awful 90% of the time. Most of the voice work for main characters fits them pretty well, but side character voices usually don't fit the character, or just really bad performances. Like this character in particular, I can hardly understand what she's supposed to be saying.
Like a whirlpool, lilla vän. Carrot or rhubarb?
Carrot, please.
On top of that, some of the game's writing doesn't really flow all that well or fit certain situations. Some of the conversations are awkward, with lines that feel forced at the attempt to get a laugh, and other lines don't really match the situation that's going on. An example of this are the lines that play during an animation when you reunite a spirit with its body. The visuals make it look like it's supposed to be a very sentimental moment, but then you get lines like this.
You'll get used to not pooping.
For me, these things don't detract all that much from the game, and its mechanics are still pretty solid, and I still found the story to be interesting at the least. When it comes to the technical side of the game, there are a few things I don't understand, such as why I can't access the settings or options menu from the main menu. You either have to start a new game or load up an old save file before you can even check the options, and the options are pretty bland at that. There's a complete lack of visual quality options, and there are no audio options. No audio sliders, no volume options of any kind. You can't even mute the game while in-game. You have to do that outside of the game. Still, I enjoyed my time with Gravity Ghost. It has a lot of charm and quickly grew on me as I played it more. Its price of $14.99 may be a little bit high considering what you get, but what you get is still pretty well polished. The soundtrack is also available separately for $4.99, and there's even a bundle to get the game and the soundtrack together for $19.99. With solid mechanics, unique visuals, a sentimental and haunting soundtrack, as well as some pretty good voice acting and decent writing, I'd say check the game out if you haven't. As always, let me know what you think about the game or this video in the comment section. I'm MegapieMan, and I'll see you guys later. Distinct story, but several. Currently, only Act 1 of Karma Flow is released and available on Steam, and it consists of 2 different sections or chapters. One of them is in a snowy